Hello and welcome to Confidence Tea Infusions, where we get to share an intimate, confidence boosting conversation between us girls over a cup of tea. So grab your favorite cup and allow me to pour you some mind transforming, soul edifying, confidence activating tea. I am so excited that you guys are here tonight. Say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If this is the first time that you are joining us, please let us know. I love to conversate and connect with you all. So please feel free to give StreamYard permission so that I know who's posting and who you are, and so we can connect with you. If you have questions throughout this dialogue, please feel free to let us know. I'm Virginia Madison, but everyone calls me Gigi. I am the founder and CEO of Gigi Inc., which is Girls Igniting Greater Inner Strength. We are a nonprofit confidence building organization for adolescent girls. And so what we do is we help girls to journey through adolescence with positive self-esteem and healthy self-confidence, because we want them to win the mental, the physical, and the emotional battles of adolescence. And this summer in July the 8th through the 11th, we will have our third annual Confidence Glam Camp, which is a confidence building camp for girls. We have, we're going to focus on all areas. We're focusing on the entire girl. So we're talking about her body image. We're talking about self-confidence. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about all the things that girls need to know in order to walk this earth with confidence. So for more information about Confidence Glam Camp 2021, visit our website at www.giginc.org. And so I am so excited that you are here tonight. Tonight, we have a very special guest for you. Tonight, we are talking, so for the whole month of May, we've talked about mental health. So this is the last segment of our mental health awareness series. And we focused on just being able to understand mental health, to be self-aware. We talked about generational traumas. We talked about self-care. And tonight I thought no better way to wrap it all up into one nice little bow than to finish it off. Tonight we're talking about why self-care is not selfish. It is not selfish to care for yourself. So this is gonna be how we wrap up our entire month of May, dealing with mental health illness and mental health, and just being aware of your mental health. And so we have a very special guest tonight. I am so happy to have none other than my sister, my friend. We go way back, Miss Alterisa Clark. She is here tonight. I want to tell you a little bit about her before she comes on. So Alterisa Clark is the CEO and founder of Inspire for Purpose, LLC. She is a therapist, a life coach, an author, a motivational speaker. She is eager to connect with women to support their journey to purpose. She is passionate about working with women who struggle with mental health related issues, or women who simply need support and motivation to recognize and achieve their purpose. She has been married for 9 years to her high school sweetheart, and they have 2 handsome boys who are 8 and 3 years old. She was born and raised in Miami, Florida. She attained her bachelor's degree at the University of Florida and graduated from Florida International with a master's in clinical social work. She then acquired her license in clinical social work and has been in the field of social work for the past 9 years. So she has a lot of experience. She realized at a young age that she not only wanted to help others, but she realized that she had a higher calling to assist women in finding their purpose. So in 2016, she birthed Inspire for Purpose, LLC. Through Inspire for Purpose LLC, she is on a mission to break the negative stigma of our society that associates with mental health. She believes that every single person has been placed on this earth with a purpose, and her goal is to support individuals in their pursuit of that purpose. In 2019, she was awarded with the 40 Under 40 Award by Legacy Miami and has spoken to hundreds of women in regards to walking in their purpose. Since the birth of Inspire for Purpose, she has also grown her practice to coaching, support groups, mentorship programs, purpose and inspirational products, and many more to come. She is walking in her purpose so that others can walk in their purpose. And she is here with us tonight, and she has an amazing message to share with us tonight. So please welcome my friend, my dear friend, Alterisa Clark.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. I am so happy to have you tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
It's awesome. We get to talk and connect. I remember as I was saying it, you were one of our workshop facilitators at our second annual Glam Camp.
Yes,
So,
I was.
yes. So we do go way back.
Yes, we do.
Yes, well, thank you so much for joining me on tonight. Confidence is a topic that I genuinely enjoy, and I feel that myself working in the mental health industry, they go hand in hand.
Right.
And so, I know I gave your introduction, but please,
Yes.
I'm sure I didn't do it justice. So let us know. So all the women that are on here tonight, let them know a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
Sure. So I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I have a group practice in South Florida called Inspire for Purpose. And what we do there, we provide mental health counseling. And so I've been a social worker now for about 11 years. And so I'm super excited to talk about all things mental health. And so through my own journey of self-care and healing, I began to walk in my own journey. And that's what kind of caused me to start not only helping other women go through their journey, but talking about self-care and purpose and, hand in hand, and dealing with mental health issues in our community, especially in the Black community and for minorities. So I'm super excited to talk about self-care and all things mental health.
Awesome. I am so excited because it's the whole month of May. We focused on our organization focused on just awareness, bringing awareness to mental health, because I think so many things go unnoticed. And one of the things that as I work with adolescents and I work with, a lot of youth, and parents also think that doesn't exist for them. They think
Absolutely.
that, young people have no care in the world and there's nothing wrong with them. And, a lot of women, I think there's still such a negative stigma with mental health and having a mental health illness. And so a lot of people, they try to, they try to keep it covered, or they live in denial, and they don't get the proper help that they need in order to, better themselves, in order to live the life that they're supposed to. And so that's why I'm so excited to just have this conversation with you tonight, because you are someone that deals with that, and you are someone that can provide help for anyone that is listening that may need that assistance. So talk about that, and just how you're able to help, some of the products and services that you offer for anyone that's listening that may be dealing with a mental health illness, or just dealing with something, even though they have not been diagnosed or may not know what that is.
Right. No, absolutely. So to go back to how I was even introduced to mental health, because in the Black community, it's a huge stigma. We don't talk about it. It's hush hush. What happens in the house stays in the house. We were raised that way. And so a lot of times we have family members who we know something's wrong with them one way or another, but the family kind of just sweeps it under the rug. And so growing up, my mom dealt with her own mental health issues, and it was kind of taboo. We all knew something was wrong with her, but
Mhm.
nobody talked about it, and
Mhm.
dare let alone talk about going to a therapist. It's like, no, we pray it away and that's it. And so growing up, I realized that there's something wrong here, and not understanding truly what mental health was until I got to college. And I had a professor who introduced these terminologies and things to me. And I also had a moment in college where I was depressed.
Mhm.
For a lot of students, the adjustment of going to college, for some kids, it's like, whoa, yes. But for others, it's like, what is this?
It's a transition. It is.
Transition. You're away from home, you're on your own. And so during college, I had a moment where I had to find myself, figure out who I was, get through college. And so I struggled a lot in college. And so I went through my own spell of depression during college. And it wasn't until I realized what that was. I had a professor who told me, no, this is what it is, and go to our local center here, because I went to the University of Florida.
Mhm.
And so they had a on-campus counseling center that I went to, and going through my own process of therapy, I realized that, hey, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that you have a problem. It doesn't make you crazy because you go to talk to someone about your issues. It actually made me feel a lot better. I was failing out of college. And after that process of going to therapy and kind of figuring out myself, I was better than I was going into college. And so for me, it was my own personal experience that I realized that this is something that I want to do. And so going to college and getting the degree and everything I needed to become a therapist, now I realize is that there are so many people that are suffering with mental health issues, and the stigma it's getting better, but it's still there,
It's
where
still.
people feel crazy or they
Mhm.
feel there's something wrong with them because they are depressed or anxious, or they're having thoughts of suicide and things like that. And so there's this fear that people have, and they don't speak out, they don't seek help, and they suffer in silence. And so one of the things that I wanted to do in my mission is to get rid of that negative stigma and let people know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you if you need help. There's absolutely
Mhm.
nothing wrong with you if you have to go to therapy. And so the stigma even going to therapy is huge, because a lot of the clients that I see in my practice, they're like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about this for years, but I told one family or a friend, and they're like, girl, don't go to therapy, go to church, or don't go to therapy, just
Pray
talk to
about
your
it.
husband, right? Or pray about it. And it's like, okay, yes, you pray about it, and yes, you talk to your friends about it, but most of the time the people that are in your circle can't help you. They can
Nope.
listen, but
Mhm.
they have their own problems that they can't even work through.
Okay, and they're not going through what you're going through. So
Exactly.
it's like the
Exactly.
blind leading the blind.
Basically, right? And so I tell my clients, and I tell them, give therapy a shot. Do 1 or 2 sessions and see if you like it. If you don't like it, then you can, say, I don't like therapy, but give it a chance. And I also tell people, well, how were you before you came to therapy? If you were able to figure it out, you wouldn't be here, right? And so
Mhm.
I say, what do you have to lose? Give it a shot. And
Exactly.
so looking at mental health, a lot of people have this concept that it's, something's extremely wrong with you. That's why you go to therapy. You can go to therapy when things are going great in your life, right? You can go to therapy just for what I call tune-ups, where you're checking in with the therapist and you're getting advice and you're getting guidance on some of the things that you're going through. It doesn't have to be where your life is in complete shambles when you're coming to therapy. Now, mind you, that's when a lot of my clients come. It's like things are out of control. They
They
can't
can't take
control
it no
it.
more. It's
Exactly.
like
They
the
can't take
last
it. It's
resort.
like
Like,
the last resort. And so I always encourage people that you can go to therapy when things are not in shambles as well. And so in my practice at Inspire for Purpose, we see men, women, adults, children. But the great thing about it is we have a practice now. So it's not just me. So I have other therapists there that can see all kind of different specialties that they can see outside of myself. So we're not just limited to, if I just see women, we can see children or adults or other things. And so um, through my own personal mental health journey, I was able to realize that this is what I want to do and this is how I want to help people.
that's amazing. That is awesome. I am so glad that just knowing that you were able to overcome
Right.
and now reach back and help other people that need the same help that you needed at one point. I
Right.
think too often we cover up some of the issues that we may be going through,
Right.
and we don't, instead of saying, okay, I survived this, so let me reach back and help somebody else that may be going through the same thing, we cover, oh, I don't want nobody to know that I went through that. And
Right.
so I think that that is so amazing that you have stepped outside the box
Right.
and now you are providing just an outlet for people, an outlet, a platform, just a place for them to get the help that they need. And they need it. It's needed. Like what you do is so needed, especially in our community,
Yeah.
because it's still so has such negative associations, like I think
Right.
even though we're not where we were 10 years ago,
Right.
but the topic of mental health is still developing.
Yes.
It still has a long way to go.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Definitely. I am happy to see where it is, but you're right. It has a long ways to go.
It has a long way to go. Now I know you had a launch, and you also have a nonprofit.
Yes. So super excited that I got to launch my nonprofit, Inspiring Community Health, in the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month. That was my goal. And so my nonprofit, Inspiring Community Health, is a mental health nonprofit in the sense of we are striving to provide mental health services for the community at a free or reduced rate, but also other community resources that the clients that we see or the people that we serve in the nonprofit will be able to get food, connecting them to resources that they may need, being able to provide different things during the holidays and things like that to the community, but also most importantly to provide the counseling that a lot of people need. The other, thing that we see is healthcare disparities, not just with physical health, but also mental
Mhm.
health. There are
Oh yeah,
quite a few people
definitely.
who don't have insurance or don't have the monies to pay for therapy. And so the nonprofit, the goal is to provide those services for the community that do not have those resources at hand so they can get the services that they need. So we're super excited about that. And we're kicking off in a few months to do our first event. So I'm super excited about that. I don't want to speak too much about it because it's still in the works,
Okay.
but we are going to have our first event this year.
Definitely. That is awesome. That is amazing. And it's definitely needed. Like our community
Yes.
needs positive, positive things to happen. So I just love
Yes.
seeing, nonprofits build and just open doors of opportunity. So I just pray blessings
Thank
um,
you.
for you. And I look forward to just seeing all of the fruit that comes from this. So I'm
Thank
excited
you.
about that for you.
Thank
So
you.
let's jump into our topic for tonight. So the
Yes.
topic for tonight is actually you came up with this. I was like,
Yes.
oh, I like it. So self-care isn't selfish.
Yes.
And just talking about self-care, I feel like a lot of times people don't understand there are different facets of self-care. There are different
Mhm.
categories. They think self-care is going to go get a pedicure. And there's so many more levels to self-care than just your monthly pedicure. Okay,
Absolutely.
so I'm going to let you dive in and I'm going to be here. I'm going to be taking notes as well.
Okay. So yes, that is a good point, Gigi. People talk about self-care. They get a pedicure, they get a massage, they get their hair done. Trust me, those things are really nice. I have to get those as well. But those are just pieces of what self-care is. And so
Mhm.
what I like to break down self-care into different categories. So there's emotional self-care, there's physical self-care, there's spiritual self-care, and there's also professional self-care that I recently, through my own journey of self-care, had to realize. And so what are those things? So emotional self-care is how well you take care of yourself inside. How are you caring for your heart? How are you caring for your emotions, your feelings? How are you caring for yourself in that way? Physical self-care, right, is your physical activity. Now, you don't have to be a physical fit person to take care of yourself in that way, but going for a walk, making sure you eat the right things, right? You're balancing off your diet. You're making sure that whatever you put into your body makes you feel good. There are a lot of things that we eat that cause us to feel really bad. And so, are you taking vitamins? Are you taking your supplements, your herbs and things like that?
Are
So
you sleeping?
are you sleeping? Yes. People don't realize that sleep can cause a lot of negative things to happen. Sleep is so important. And people have this concept where they can just sleep for, oh, I just sleep for 2 hours. And I'm just like, no, you can't think straight. A lot of people have a foggy brain. They're irritated. I know if I don't get
Mhm.
enough sleep, forget about it. I'm
Me
cranky. I'm
too.
irritated. I don't function well. So I don't know how people prescribe to 2, 3 hours of sleep. I cannot.
Now I have done it, but however, I make up for it. You know, like if I have to, because sometimes I work the night shift, and so, but
Mhm.
I come home and I'm sleep the whole day,
Right.
just to make up. And you never, even though like our bodies are meant to sleep at night, so even though I sleep the whole day, it still is not as beneficial as if I would have gotten a good night's sleep. And so
Exactly.
like people don't understand that. Like I work with a lot of people and I'm like, no, I'm like, yeah, I sleep, but it's not the same.
Exactly. It's not the same. And so, yes, getting a good night's sleep and having a good sleep routine as well is
Mhm.
really, really good for those people who are struggling with falling asleep and staying asleep. Having a good sleep routine will help you get into a better pattern of sleep and things like that. And so, those are the facets of what I look at as self care. And so, the first one, in looking at your emotional self care, right? How are
Mhm.
you taking care of yourself internally, right? Because the outside, right, that's where you get your nails, that's where you get your hair,
Mhm.
you like your
And we
makeup.
good at that. Women,
Right. We're
we
good at
honey,
that.
I'm
We
going.
will go faithfully.
Oh yeah.
Right? We will go faithfully. And that stuff is great. That also
Mhm.
encompasses taking care of yourself. But I'm talking about the emotional, the inside, right? How are you
Mhm.
taking care of your inside, your emotional self-care, your emotional and mental wellness, right? How
Mhm.
are you treating yourself? How do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to
Mhm.
yourself in a negative way? Do you allow other people to talk to you in a negative way? Do you allow people to mistreat you or abuse you, right? How do you treat yourself, right? Because how you allow other people to treat you is a reflection on how you feel about yourself. If you're
Yes.
allowing people to mistreat you, then how do you really feel about yourself? Those are things that we have to think about, because the reality is that people will only treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And so
Mhm.
your emotional self-care is I would say, one of the most important ones. I think all of them are, but I like to start with this one first, is because so many people don't necessarily think about the inside. I do positive affirmations, right? And
Mhm.
so if you have children or adults, telling yourself these things on a daily basis: you're smart, you're beautiful, there's nothing you can't do, you're unstoppable, whatever you want to say, these things matter,
It
because
does.
the more you say it to yourself, you start to believe these things.
You
If
do.
you're a negative minded person where you're always thinking negative things, well, this will never happen for me, or this person will doesn't like me, or this or that, you start to believe those things, and they seep into your mind until this is how you see yourself. And so
Mhm.
your emotional self-care is so important. It builds the foundation of who you are. This is how you build your self-esteem. If
Mhm.
you do not feel that great about yourself, if you do not have high self-esteem, it's usually tied to how your emotional self-care is. How do you treat
Mhm.
yourself on the inside? Because that's how you're going to allow other people to treat you,
Yeah, so true.
right?
And I also like, I feel like with the emotional self care, the biggest thing that I see is that people don't unload the baggage. They just carry it. And I always, so the way that when I'm talking to my teenagers, the way that I explain it to them is like, would you come home and not wash your face for 5 months? Like you just, every day
Right.
you just don't wash your face. You just come home, you don't wash your face. You go to sleep, you don't wash your face. Would you just put on more makeup, never wash your face? And so our emotions are like the same way. So a lot of those negative things that we may hear, or even some of the negative things that we say to ourselves, it's
Right.
like, okay, if I never get rid of that baggage, right?
Mhm.
Even though I'm saying I'm beautiful, but if I never got rid of the person that said to me that I was ugly, like putting
Mhm.
that I'm beautiful on top of you're ugly is like, it's like a messy sandwich, like
Exactly.
you don't know, your brain doesn't know which to decipher. And so
Right.
you have to start with a clean slate. So it's like before we can pour the positive affirmations and the good things and the positive self-talk, we have to remove all of that negative that was already there. So the things that we say to ourselves in a negative way, or things that was said to us in a negative way, things, past hurts, past comments that people have made that we haven't dealt with. We have to get rid of that baggage. So I think that
Right.
all falls under that emotional self-care, however way you choose to get rid of it, whether it's journaling or
Mhm.
talking therapy, right?
Mhm.
Speaking to someone about it, letting them know how you feel, how that made you feel. All of that ties into that emotional self-care.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And that's a part of your healing journey, right? A lot of times we put band-aids on top of things, just band-aids and band-aids. And the reality is that you're not really healing. You're trying to put a band-aid on a gaping open wound, and it's
Yeah.
like it's not going to work, right?
Listen.
You can only patch it up for so long before
Yeah.
it becomes infested.
Yeah.
So that's all a part of healing. And
Mhm.
so, looking at self care is absolutely going through these things, but this self care is also a part of it, can be a part of your healing journey, right?
Mhm.
Doing these things to help you get to the healing place you need to be. And so, looking at emotional and now looking at the physical self care, right? These are the physical things that we can do for our bodies, right? What we put in our bodies, getting good sleep, drinking water, doing some type of physical activity, right? You don't have to go run a marathon. You can go for a walk, right? Or just making
Mhm.
sure that your body is moving, going outside to feel the sun.
Yes.
That does a lot for your emotions and your overall feeling of how you feel, right?
Mhm.
For some people, like for example, the people that live in Seattle, those levels of depression are so high there because they rarely get the sunlight.
Yep. It's
It's
cold.
gloomy, it's cold, it's rainy all throughout the year. And so people think like, oh, it's just going outside for sun. But you imagine that you were in the house and you had a bad day and you just went outside for a walk in the hot, and it's hot down south. We're in Miami, but still letting the sun hit your skin for a few minutes can help lift up your mood.
Oh
Doing
yeah.
these type of things, people don't really realize it, but it absolutely can.
It's so true. I totally agree. And I can actually see the difference. So, I lived in South Florida like the majority of my life.
Right.
And for the past year or so, I've been in Massachusetts and it's very cold. And granted, that's how I got into the mental health industry, was because it's like there's so many facilities there. The rate of mental health illness is so much higher up here
Right.
than when I lived in Florida. When I lived in Florida, I never really heard the term mental like health facilities, or like that wasn't even a thought. Where
Right.
now I'm in a place where the like mental health hospitals are like 2 miles apart. Like there's
Oh,
so many of
wow.
them, and it's because they're so like, and I think I can equate it to like the temperature. Like it's cold, people
Mhm.
are just not in the mood. The weather has such a, like it gets dark early.
Right,
So there's so many facets to why in these colder climates, people just deal with more or higher rates of, mental health illnesses, and their
right.
loneliness and just different things. So I can totally agree with, like, yeah.
No, absolutely. So, yes, getting some sun, getting out, doing some physical activity is also a part of your self care. And like we talked about before, your sleep matters, right? When you are not getting sleep, that affects your whole day. Also, eating. For some people skip meals and they don't eat all day. That also will affect how you feel in your mood, right? Making sure that you're eating enough meals out the day, right? So if you're eating a breakfast, if you're eating lunch, if you're eating dinner, making sure that you're not skipping meals, because that also affects your mood, which also affects your mental wellness. And so a lot of times people don't connect all these things together, but they absolutely connect. And so yeah, that's your physical self-care. Looking at your, and I want to talk about your professional self-care, because a lot of people
That's a
don't
good
look at
one.
it.
Like that goes way out the window, right? We don't even think about that.
We don't. And so I realized this because my last job before I went full time as an entrepreneur, was so horrible. I had a horrible boss. Every day I went to that job, in the last year of me working there, because I was there for almost 5 years, I hated it. I couldn't wait to leave this job. I had so much stress on me that I had to be hospitalized because of the amount of stress that I had at this job. I had
Really?
no idea. I got up one morning to go to work. I didn't feel good. So whatever, had a headache, and I started walking to the building, and I was just like, why can't I walk? Like, I just could not walk. Yes, I could not walk. I was shaking. I was like, oh my God, something's wrong with me. Get to urgent care, get to the hospital. They run tests. They're like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Maybe you had a seizure, maybe, and I have no history of any of those things. And lo and behold, they said, this is stress. This is high levels of anxiety. It's stress induced. There's nothing wrong with you. Go see a therapist.
You didn't tell them,
I'm a therapist. I'm like, hello. And they're like, well, you need to look at your life because you have a lot of stress. And they asked me, what were you doing? Like, I was going to this job that I hate. Like, yeah, you need to get rid of the job. You need to change your job. You need to do something. And through that experience, which was terrifying, I realized that I was not taking care of myself, but this job was causing me so much stress. And so what do I mean by professional self-care? Do you take vacations? Do you take time off? Are you eating nonstop throughout your lunch break and you're not taking any breaks? You're working nonstop. You work out after you're off the clock. You get off at 5 and you're working until 7 or 8 at night.
Yep.
You're spending so much time doing work that you neglect your family, your friends. Now you have no life. You are not taking care of yourself because this job has absorbed so much of your time and energy. Your boss is criticizing you. Nothing you do is perfect. Whatever type of environment, and there are some of us that have high level stress jobs. That's just a part of what we do. And you still have to find ways to balance that because, for example, if you have the essential workers that work throughout this pandemic, I'm pretty sure they had high levels of stress because of what they're doing. They had no choice. They had to show up to work. They couldn't just stay home like a lot of people could. So what are you doing during that time to make sure that you're still managing your life and you're still showing up for your job? And so for some people, it's the in between that they don't really connect. They're like, I'm just working. What do you mean? It's like, your hair is falling out. Like, I have clients that their hair fall out, their teeth fall out, they lose a lot of weight,
issues, breakouts,
issues, all of these health issues that come up, and they're like, I never had this problem before. It's like, okay, let's look at your life. Where are the largest amounts of stress in your life? And a lot of people, it's work. You spend if you think about it, most of your time at work in a day. You get home, you eat, watch some TV, and you go to sleep.
Yep, then you're back at work.
And you're back to work the next day. And
so if it's something you hate,
yep,
that's
something
problem.
You hate, something that causes you so much stress, you're spending a lot of time there. Now, some people, they're like, well, I can't, I've heard people say, well, I can't help it. This is the job I have. Okay. Try to find something else if you can, right? There are certain circumstances where people can't. And I say, okay, well, let's look within. You feel we've exhausted all options of you leaving. You can't right now. So let's see how we can lighten your load. If your coworkers piling work on you because they're lazy, tell them no. If your boss is piling work on you that's outside of what you're supposed to be doing and you're afraid to say no, try to negotiate those things, right? Take your lunch break, take time off. There was someone I knew, it was like a friend of a friend of a friend who passed away driving to work, crashed because they fell asleep at the wheel.
Wow.
They had so much, they had like 1,000 sick and annual time of hours that they have never taken. And unfortunately, they passed away and they never took any of that time off. The reality is that you have to live. Your job is what sustains us and gives us money. I understand that we can't live without work and money. But the other side of that is you have to live, because if you die, if something happens to you, they will post your job and hire someone else.
The very next day. So this is what I used to tell people all the time, because I've always been one of those people, like I'm a workaholic. I love to work, but I also, like, I work hard, I play harder. So when it's time for me to go, I'm like deuces, like I'm not gonna be thinking about y'all because when
Yep.
I'm at work, I focus, I do what I gotta do. And I
Hmm.
always used to make a point to people that I work with, like, do you think that if I drop dead today, that they're gonna close this building down, or the company's gonna call a national GG day, or they're gonna like, no,
No,
they're not.
they're
They're
not.
business as usual. They're gonna keep their doors
Absolutely.
open. They're going to replace me in an instant, and life goes on. So I'm like, why would I put myself in the position of like, okay, no time for me? Like the minute I start working, so I have had multiple jobs. I'll let that be known, because the minute, the second
Yep.
something like it gets on my nerves or I'm irritated, like, and that's why I have, so people know I'm a Jill of many trades. I've done
Mhm.
everything you can think of, and I want to learn more. I'm still in school now. I'm gonna learn more until my brain can't handle anything else, because
Right.
I don't like stress, and I
Right.
don't like to feel boxed in. I don't like to feel like this is my only option. And a lot of people,
Mhm.
granted, and sometimes I used to think I was crazy. Like, why do I go and learn this for a season and then I want to learn something else? And
Right.
now that I'm older, and I used to think I was crazy. People used to be like, why you always got to be moving and doing it? And and now I'm like, well, I'm not boxed in. You have been it's great that you've had this career for
Yep.
20 years, and
Mhm.
but at some point you're going to hate it and you have nothing to fall back on. Whereas the minute I decide that I don't want to do this anymore, guess what? I
Right.
have 20 other things that I've done that
Exactly.
I
Yep.
can fall back on. And
Yep.
so a lot of times people feel that they're in this job or they're in this situation, and they're tied to it. Like they hate
Mhm.
it, but that's all they know, or that's all they've done. And they've never, like, but how do you know if you've never tried something else? How do you know?
Exactly.
So I'm like, that's self-care. Like, do you
It
care about
is.
yourself enough to not put yourself at this job that is going to like eat you alive,
Yep.
cause you this additional stress? And oh, I can't.
Yes, yes. And I salute you on that because, older people will tell you work somewhere for 20, 30 years and that's where you're supposed to stay. And the reality is that I agree. The moment where, and it was like a light bulb that went off, it's like after that encounter, I knew it's time for me to leave. And I also
Mhm.
knew that I had a calling that I wanted to do my own thing. I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to have the capacity of owning my own business. And I knew this was the moment. It was like, this job is going to take you out unless you do something about it. You
Okay.
leave, or it's time to take that leap of faith and start Inspire for
Mhm.
Purpose, do your own thing. And I absolutely took that as the final word, like, okay, it's time to go.
It's time to
And
go.
that's what I did. And I knew, as I'm also a mom, and so I knew, like, I wanted to spend time with my kids. I wanted to be able to show up for the Black History program, the Valentine's Day, this, the dance, the whatever. I knew that I wanted to show up for those things. And so at your job, there's so many constraints. And especially where I worked, my boss was just really nasty, and she wouldn't allow you to do this or do that or do this. And I knew that I wanted that freedom. So for me, I chose me all day, every day. I will always choose me,
Me
hands
too.
down. It's
Like
me first.
we don't even have to, you don't even need to ask me.
Right.
Okay. If it's me and you, honey, what they say on the plane, put your
Mask on
mask on
first.
first.
Yep.
Listen, I've been on enough flights. I got it. Like I have figured that part out. So
Exactly. Exactly. And that concept is so true. If you are going down on a plane, you have to put your own mask on first. You're hyperventilating, trying to breathe, trying to help somebody else. That
both
makes
of y'all die.
y'all both gonna die. You are both going to die. But it makes a lot of sense to us, but for a lot of people, they do this every day. They're pouring and pouring and giving and giving and giving to people, and they're not pouring anything into themselves until where they realize they have nothing left. And this is where people are having mental breakdowns, and
Yeah.
they're having broken relationships, and they're depressed, and they're miserable in their life. And it's like, well, you've been running on E for a long time, sis. And now
Mhm.
it's time for you to refill your cup before you
Yeah.
can pour into anybody else. And so that's why I say self-care is so important. And a lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, getting my nails or hair done." Like, it's so much deeper than you
So
doing
much.
those things. Those
That's
things
the
are great.
superficial. That's the
Right.
superficial things that we associate with self-care. Because guess what? Even if you're getting your nails done or you're getting your hair done, but you're on your phone or you're working or you're doing 20 bill, it's not really self-care. You're
Exactly.
completing a task. And so,
Exactly.
like me, if I'm at the nail salon, I'm at the nail salon. The phone's going
Yep.
off. Like if I'm relaxing, I want to relax. I don't want nobody to call. Don't bother me. Don't call me. Like if I'm listening to music, I might want to listen to music or whatever. But sometimes people think just because they perform the act
Yes.
that it's self-care. No, it's not.
Right.
It's everything that encompasses, like you actually taking the time to really do something for self, and
Right.
so yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so looking at those, so we talked about emotional self-care, physical self-care, professional self-care, and the last one is, and this is for people who are spiritual, there's also spiritual self-care. If you're, whatever your belief is, connecting to your own spirituality matters, whether if you're a Christian or whatever you believe in, whoever you pray to, making sure that you connect to that spirituality, because that also helps you, right? That for some people who are Christians, right? And so I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. My spirituality helps me, right? Prayer is a part of my self-care routine. I pray every morning, right? That's a part of my self-care ritual. My positive affirmations, my prayer, journaling. This is a part of my self-care. And so if you're a spiritual person, adding your spirituality to your self-care, it connects you to God or whatever your higher power is, but it also encourages you, it builds you up, it gives you faith, it helps you along the way, so you don't necessarily feel like you're doing this alone, right? It's the extra boost we need, right?
Yep.
It's where they say, pray it away. That's great. Absolutely. But that other part is also the work that needs to be done to get you to that healing, or to get you back to your self-care and taking care of yourself and things like that. So spiritual self-care is also important. And that is, it looks like whatever you want it to look like,
Yeah,
right? I
it
said
looks
mine's
different for
prayer.
everybody.
Right.
And
Right.
all of the self-cares, I think a lot of times people want a perfect cookie cutter, and there's no such thing. The way that you self-care and the way that I self-care might not be the same,
Right.
because we're different beings. We like different things. Self-care is gonna be defined differently by everyone. And so, like for me, so people think I'm crazy because I created this whole Gigi Day, which is gonna be a national holiday one day. Y'all mark my
Nice.
words, take this video. But I started this way back when I was in the cosmetics industry, because I realized that I was being cheated on because my birthday is 3 days before Christmas. And I was like, people don't really buy me nothing. I was like, I'm gonna start. Yeah, I was like, people give me a happy birthday, Merry Christmas, or they give me a happy belated birthday, Merry Christmas. So I'm like,
Right.
I'm being gypped. And I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start celebrating my birthday every month. And so that's kind of
Good.
how the whole Gigi Day concept started. So the 22nd of every month, I would buy myself something because it made me
Nice.
feel good. Like I just love
Good.
doing that. And I would do different things. I would take myself out for ice cream. I would do all sorts of things, to celebrate and to commemorate that day. Like to
Right.
say, Gigi, today you are important, because sometimes I don't have the time. Like
Right.
sometimes we go, we do, we work. And
Yep.
sometimes we don't take the time to say, you are important. Let me cater to you. Let me treat you. Like we wait on other people to do something for it. Like I'm not going to wait on a man to treat me how I know how to treat me.
Exactly.
Like, because guess what? If he doesn't see that, and I remember like I would date and people, like I would get gifts because they just knew it was Gigi Day. Like, but that was something that they learned. Like they saw me
Right.
do that. Like they saw me engage in the action. And so I always say to women, like, treat yourself how you want others to treat you. So
Right.
if you're in a relationship or you're married and that person never sees you caring for yourself, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to put such a heavy load on somebody else,
Right.
something that you don't do for you. You want your husband to cater to you and to care for you, but he never sees you take the time to care for you. That's a lot to put, just
Right.
that's a lot of responsibility. Um,
Absolutely.
and so, I feel that it's so important that we take the time and we create those routines, and we make it a point to do those things for ourselves, because if we don't, we can't expect other people to do it for us. We
Absolutely.
really can't.
Absolutely. And that's all what self care is about. It's what you're doing for yourself and then what other people can do for you. Right. But if you're
Mhm.
not taking care of yourself, if you're not doing things for yourself, how are you then expecting other people to do things for you? Right. It's like, girl, you're not even taking care of your own self. How are you expecting this person to take care of you? Right.
You don't want to pay $25 to get your nails done, but you want me to pay $25.
Right.
That's exactly how it sounds.
Right,
you
right.
know?
Which is true. It's true. And so the reality is that if you can take care of yourself, if you can take care of your emotional, physical, spiritual, professional self-care, then you have all those things covered. And then you can do your expectations of other people, whoever
Mhm,
that is, right? But as long as you're taking care of you, you're filling your cup, right? And whatever else
mhm.
other people pour
That's
into you is just
overflow.
extra, right? It's overflow because you're good, right?
I'm
You filled
good.
the cup, right? Whatever
Yeah.
anybody pours into you, what my husband pours into me, my family, my children, my staff, whoever, my friends, it's extra because
Mhm.
Alteresa's good. I've
Yep.
mastered my self-care now to the
Yeah.
T
Yeah.
because I had none in the past. And I realized how
Exactly.
it felt to be on E often. And I'm like, I can't live this way anymore. It's a
Can't.
no for me.
You can't. Like it's like driving a car without no gas. Like the
Right.
stress, like, oh my God, I'm
Right.
gonna stop. Oh my God, the car, like that feeling.
Exactly.
So I've only ever had my car stop for gas one time, and I didn't even know. I didn't know what was happening. I'm just like, oh my God, so the car is dying. Like, what's wrong?
Right.
Oh my God, there's no gas in the car.
Right.
And but that is not a position that I ever want to be in.
Right.
And we have to think of our self-care in that same facet, right? The
Right.
physical. So that is, the physical nature. That's the spiritual nature, right? That's the emotional nature. That is the professional nature. All of the things
Right.
that we talked about, making sure that we replenish all of those levels. Like we should be full on everything, right? We should be taking care
Absolutely.
of our health. We should be making sure we're not stressing ourselves out, too much. I was listening to a pastor the other day, and he says that everyone has to have a calibration time.
Mm.
And so it's like, how do you recalibrate? It's like, what is that thing? Like, what time do you take? Is it okay, I take a month off in the summer? Is it okay during the holidays I spend, like everybody, you need to recalibrate. Like you
Absolutely.
have to, if you go from the beginning of the year to the end of the year and you just never take time to pause and take a deep breath,
Yeah.
then it's like, oh my gosh. I have a comment. Let me read this
Hmm.
comment. So Leslie says, "It's the nature of the beast." Oh, hold on. It's the nature of the beast, ladies. LOL. People are constantly expecting others to do things they won't do for themselves. It's an important part of life, but this type of platforms help us to understand why it's necessary for us to care for ourselves first. Yes, so true. Like
Absolutely.
I feel like, and this is for all of us listening, all of us women, like
Hmm.
sometimes we just need to take that time. And sometimes it's like we may know something, but we just need a friendly reminder
Right.
every now and again. Even
Right.
I need a reminder every now and again because I'll go and go and go and go. And people are like, Gigi, you're doing too much. That's
Yep.
a common thing for me to hear. Like people say that to me so often because
Me too.
sometimes I feel like I function better. Like
Yeah.
if I'm not doing nothing, I'm like, oh, I can't get nothing. Like seriously, if you put one thing in front of me, it is so hard for me to focus. But if you
Hmm.
got 10 things, I'm like, okay, yeah, let me do this. And it's like
Yes.
it's the nature of women. We're multitaskers, and we
Right.
we have learned how to run in chaos. Like literally, like I function better in chaos than I do with peace. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But you know, sometimes that's how we are. And so we have to really constantly remind ourselves to care for ourselves first.
Right. And slow down. I'm the same way. Like I'm doing a million things. And every now and again, my husband is like, you're doing too much. Like, slow down. I'm like this and this and this and this and this. But my mind is like a mile a minute. And I'm like, this is how I function.
Yeah,
And I have to be,
the
and I
same
have to
way.
slow down. I have to tell myself, relax, slow down. You
Take
are
a breath.
doing too much. Take the time you need to take care of yourself, refill your cup, and then you can
Mhm.
keep going. And so those reminders I have to still do to myself to this day, where I have to say, slow down, relax. Like I made a decision this month for mental health to not work on Fridays. So
Mhm.
every Friday this month, I did not work. Why? Because I wanted to take that time for myself. I wanted to, recalibrate, regroup. I had a lot that happened this month as far as my business. And so I needed to take that time for myself and shut my phone off, my work phone, and put it on do not disturb. Because a lot of times that's another thing. We will answer everybody's calls, we will constantly text, we will constantly be on the phone, especially time where we're like, I'm just going to take my time, watch a movie, relax. Somebody
Mhm.
calls you, this, that.
Yep.
You have to find that moment of peace where nobody disturbs it at
Yep.
all.
Yep.
Nothing. And so that leads me to talk about a self-care plan, right? I gave you all of these self-care things, but I want to give you some tips, ladies. So creating a self-care plan is something that I created that helped me. This is my self-care routine that I do every week. Now, some people, they would do it every 2 weeks, whatever, how often you do it, but you need to do it often. Every week, one day a week, it's normally Sunday, I pick a self-care activity that I do for myself. Nobody else. I actually leave the house. So if moms, you're on here and you're a mom, you probably got to get out the house, right? Because you have kids, or if you have a spouse, or if you have pets, if you have whoever, you get out the house for that. If you're by yourself, then you can do it at home, whatever whatever you choose. But for me, I have a self-care list, and that's all kind of things that I do, right? Whether it's journaling, whether it's positive affirmations, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's reading, whether it's drinking more water. I kind of go through the list and tie them into, whether they're emotional, spiritual, physical, professional, whatever they are. I interchange between that list and finding things that make me feel good inside and out, right? Ladies, I know we like
Mhm.
our outside things, the nails and stuff like that. Those are great. Those are great as well, but also make sure you're doing stuff for the inside as well. And so every one day a week, every Sunday, I get out the house and I do different things that make me feel good inside and out. And so thinking about your self-care plan, think about, what would you do? What do you like? If you have children or if you work, making sure you set out, you plan ahead. What happens? We say, okay, I'm going to do this on Saturday. What happens? You have no plan. Guess what? You're not going to do it. I tell
Exactly.
people you have to make that goal as specific as possible. At Sunday at 1 o'clock, I leave the house. I know my husband's going to take the kids, or if I know if he was at work, my aunt, my mom is going to have the kids, so I don't worry. I leave, I come back at, let's say, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever time. I have a specific plan that I do so that I can stick to it. Now, life happens, you may not be able to stick strictly to it, but come up with some type of self-care plan to take care of yourself. And there are so many things for self-care that you can do. If you have no idea, then start with things you like to do. It might be things that you used to do and you never do anymore, but
Mhm.
whatever it is, start with the things that you like to do for your self-care plan. It works, but you have to make sure you stick to it and you try to do things that you enjoy.
Definitely, definitely. And ladies, I do have a self-care. It's a self-care workbook for you guys. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. That way you guys can download that and and use that, like you
Right.
said, with the plan, create a calendar. So this
Mhm.
self-care workbook has a calendar. It has some ideas already in there, but you can make it your own, do the things that you like doing, tweak, move some things here, find the things that you enjoy to do, because you need that time. Like it's so important. You're no good to nobody else if you're not good to yourself.
Absolutely.
And if you are just overworked and tired and angry and stressed out, it's not good for your health, and it's not good for the people that's surrounding you, because they probably don't want to be around you. You all mean.
Exactly.
People want to be around people that are bright, happy, because like for me, for example, like I'm always on. So anytime, like I don't really get an off day, because people expect me to be. So if I have when I have to do like emotional type, cleansing or whatever, if I need to cry, like I got to do that in my own world, because people they don't expect me to cry. They think I'm Superwoman. They think like, no, Gigi, like you are always on, like you're always happy, you're always bubbly. They have this Gigi idea, and that's it. And I'm like, no, sometimes I want to cry. Sometimes I don't feel good. Sometimes, emotionally, I may be going through something just like the next person. And so sometimes people think, well, you're the queen of confidence, so you should always be, and I'm like, that's not how it works.
Exactly.
I face the same struggles, the same attacks, just like the next person. And so, people think that, like, no, like, but I do so much. So the way you guys always see me like on is because I do so much work behind the scenes. So that when you need me to be on, I am on, and I'm bright and I'm fun and I'm bubbly. But if I didn't spend the time to take care of myself and to do the emotional self-care and to do those things, I wouldn't be on. And there were times when I wasn't always this bright and this bubbly and this confident, earlier you gave an analogy of a Band-Aid. And I was just that. I had no emotion. Like people would do stuff and I just put a Band-Aid over it and keep it moving. Like people would say something to me, it hurt. I'm like, nope, just keep it moving. Like I had no emotion. Like I had almost grown to be callous. Just
you were numb.
I was so numb because so many people had done so many things, broken relationships and, just negativity. And so I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to deal with it. The only thing I knew how to do was to ignore it and keep going. And so, but it gets to a time where now you have all of these Band-Aids and it's infected. So it's like I had to take time to do the cleansing and to do the work and to create those affirmations and to really remove all of those negative things that people said about me or all those negative things that I said to me about me. And so that's so important that we take the time. Like, I mean, all of the self-care is important, but the work, the inside is so important. It is so crucial that you spend the time to build your inner self. Like it is important. So important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And so looking at self-care, Gigi shared a link. So make sure you click that link to start your self-care plan and get some ideas. There are so many things you can do for self-care. The list is endless. And so if you have no idea, you can check out that link, and you can also, like I said, also start where you are, create your own self-care plan, whatever works for you, but make sure you're doing the work on the outside, but also on the inside, because both matter, not just the outside, but the inside matters as well, especially going through your self-care journey. And so those are the self-care tips that I wanted to share with you ladies, making sure that you cover your emotional self-care, your physical self-care, your spiritual self-care, and your professional self-care, and making sure that you're doing the work inside and out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you so much. This was so good. This was like good information. I know that anybody that's listening, they're being like taking notes and making sure that they incorporate these things into their lives. So please, Teresa, let us know where we can connect with you and just keep our relationship, growing. Because I know there's some ladies on here that were, touched and inspired by some of the words of wisdom that you shared. So let us know how we can connect with you and where to find you on social media platforms.
Absolutely. So you can find me, my business Inspire for Purpose on Facebook. It's Inspire, the number 4 Purpose LLC. And you can find me on Facebook, Inspire for Purpose. And you can also find me on Instagram, Inspire for Purpose, and on Twitter, Inspire for Purpose. And then you can also follow my page, my personal page on Facebook, Teresa Clark, LCSW. You can follow me there as well.
I'm typing it in now.
Okay. Sorry, I don't have access to type it in. I would have typed it in too to help you. So thank you for sharing. And sorry, my website is www.inspireforpurpose.com. So you can check out
the number 4 as well, right?
Yes, it's the number 4 as well. My website as well.
Okay, perfect. Got it. Well, it has been an amazing time just chatting with you about self-care. I feel like this was self-care for me.
Yes, I love talking about it. Literally felt like 2 girlfriends having a conversation.
That's what it's supposed to do. We are 2 girlfriends having a conversation over a cup of tea, even though I really didn't drink much of my tea tonight. But this has been amazing. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You can find more information about Confidence Tea. We have so many exciting things happening, and so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Not going to spoil it. There's a surprise coming. So stay connected, stay tuned in. I will catch you guys next Sunday, 8 p.m. on Confidence Tea. Thank you guys for joining us, and have a wonderful night.